Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We're continuing our read through of Robert Jordan's The Eye of the World, book 1 of the Wheel of Time series, and we're up to chapter 13 entitled Choices. And this chapter kind of has 3 elements that I want to focus on. The first is the group is continuing their journey, leaving the Terran River, and everything that Moiraine did there, magically sinking the ferry, sending the men off, and they're continuing the journey, and it's a week, essentially, the first part of this chapter, from when they leave the ferry to when they get to Baerlon, kind of the first city along the journey. And really, along the way, they're talking, they're discussing, they're not getting many answers, but Lan begins to teach the boys how to actually use their weapons. So he gives them all bow and arrow lessons, even though it's Matt's bow. He trains them all. He actually trains Perrin specifically with his axe, and he trains Rand with his sword, just giving them basic steps. And he says something funny towards the end of it, like, at least now you all won't be cutting off your feet if we ever do get attacked, or something to that nature. And at mealtime, it's the same every single day. They have the same meal for breakfast, for lunch, and for the evening meal. Flatbread, cheese, dried meat. Except in the evenings, they have tea. And at evening time, Tom Merrill will entertain them. And actually, he's going to begin giving them some lessons of juggling. He's going to begin teaching them the stories a little bit. Just, again, passing the time. We are marching. We're keeping vigilant. Lan and Moiraine are certainly keeping an eye on things. But you know, they have to do something along the way. What's interesting is that every night, Moiraine will take Egwene and they'll go off separately for an hour or two. And then when they come back, everyone will have been asleep. Well, that's kind of bothering Rand, because he does not like this idea that Moiraine has singled out Egwene for becoming an Aes Sedai. He's not excited about that, because he's still not sure how he feels about Moiraine. He knows he doesn't like the stories that he knows and he's heard of the Aes Sedai. And so one night, he gets the bright idea to begin tracking them down. So when everyone else had settled down, all the men in their beds snoring, Tom Merrill is snoring, and Rand is, not doing his thing, but Rand tries to sneakily, to carefully sneak out of the camp and go overhear what they're talking about. And so he does just that. He sneaks out and he finds where they're at. He's hiding in some thickets close enough to hear. And Moiraine and Egwene are talking. Moiraine is imploring Egwene to ask questions. Anything that she can share with her, she's going to. And so Egwene begins to ask about the 5 powers: earth, wind, fire, water, and the spirit. And she asks questions like, from the stories, the male Aes Sedai that are recorded there, they get to control powers like fire and rock. And I'm just curious, why do the men get the more powerful powers than the women? And even there, that question just shows kind of how little at this point Egwene knows about the 1 power and the 5 powers that come from the one source. And so Moiraine is just sort of giving her answers. She's helping to direct her understanding. And she sort of asks her a question at one point, and she asks Egwene, "Are you afraid to become an Aes Sedai?" And Egwene says, "I'm not afraid. I do want to become an Aes Sedai." And Moiraine responds and says, "That's interesting, because few women these days have the ability to become what she calls initiates, much less have a desire to." Then Moiraine sort of gets lost in her mind while she's saying this. And Moraine's voice sounded as if it had begun musing to herself. And she says this phrase, "Surely never before were there 2 in one village." And boy, that's all Egwene needed to hear. She exclaims, 2? Who's the other one? And Moiraine gave an exasperated click of her tongue and says, "You must forget that I said that. Her road lies another way, I fear. Concern yourself with your own circumstances. It's not an easy road that you've chosen." I mean, that's pretty interesting. There's someone else in the 2 rivers that Egwene sees as being capable and able of wielding the 1 power, becoming an Aes Sedai. But apparently this other individual has another path. Her road lies another way. So maybe we'll get some answers for that in the future. We'll see. But while they continue to say a few other things, and you can imagine if this was like a movie where we sort of flash back to Rand's perspective, he's watching it, and all of a sudden, all at once, the Aes Sedai, Moiraine's head swings, and she looks right at Rand from a distance. And Rand almost falls backwards and shouts out like in fear because it was so startling. Well, he actually says to himself in his brain, he doesn't say it out loud, "Fool, eavesdropping on an Aes Sedai." Well, he tiptoes back, goes back to sleep, and he thinks that he's made it, right? So he learned his lesson. He's not going to do that again. So the next scene, kind of the first scene is them sort of journeying. The second scene is him overhearing their evening chat. And now the final scene that I kind of want to focus on was them arriving in Baerlon. And what is this town? Well, it's a city from what they have been to. It's the biggest that the Two Rivers folk have ever seen. And they are just shocked at the size of this thing. It looks like hundreds of chimneys and a 20-foot wall. Moiraine gives them some instruction. She says, "We must attract as little attention as possible. And here I'm known and Lan is known as different names. Here I'm known as Alyss and Lan is known as Andra or Andra. So don't forget that and do not call us by our real names." So they go up to the gate of the door and this sort of gruff voice shouts out, "It's too late to open the gate tonight. You're going to have to wait till tomorrow morning." When the person looks out, he sees Moiraine or Alyss and Lan, and he changes his tune. "I am so sorry. I didn't know it was you, mistress. Wait till I come down. Just wait. I'm coming. I'm coming." Well, this man comes down and yes, opens the small gate for them to walk through. They clearly have some type of friendship with him. And they confirm, "You haven't told anybody about us leaving, have you?" And he says, "I ain't told anybody, and I won't tell anybody neither, especially not them white cloaks." And Lan tunes in at that point, and he says, the children are in Baerlon, very, very intensely. And the gatekeeper responds, "They sure are." Well, Moiraine asks him, "Why are the children here?" We find a little later that they're called the Children of the Light. And the man responds, "They say they're here because of what's going down in Gelden. The dragon, as he calls himself dragon. They say the fellow's stirring up evil, which I expect he is. And they're just here to stamp it out. Only he's down there in Gelden and not here. So I think it's just an excuse to meddle in other people's business. There's been a big battle down there, they say, real big." And Moiraine drew a soft breath and says, "I heard that some Aes Sedai were going to Gelden." And this sort of draws this to a close where the gatekeeper is still sort of sharing a little bit about what's going on with this whole dragon individual and these children of the light showing up. He says, "Maybe this fellow really is the dragon reborn. He can do things, I hear, use the one power. There's thousands following him." And that's sort of the end of it. Well, they are let in and they begin slowly walking through some of the streets to wherever Lan and Moiraine are leading them. Well, Rand rides up a little slower and closer to Tom. And he asks him, "What is all that they're talking about? This people of the dragon, the followers of this man, the city of Tyr, or Tyr, I'm not sure how to pronounce it exactly. Tyr is a city all the way down at the Sea of Storms, isn't it?" And Tom shares that what they're describing is part of a prophecy. And when he shares essentially the cycle that this prophecy is from, Rand blinks and says, "The prophecies of the dragon? Nobody tells those stories in the Two River. The wisdom would skin us alive if we did." And Tom sort of chuckles and says, "Yeah, from the wisdom that I meant, that makes total sense." Well, he shares a little bit of this prophecy, and this is where I want to kind of finish our time here. The prophecy is such: Tyr or Tyr, correct me in the comments, is the greatest port on the Sea of Storms, and the Stone of Tyr is the fortress that guards it. The stone is said to be the first fortress built after the breaking of the world, when the Aes Sedai, the male Aes Sedai, drove back with the one power, the Dark One. And the world broke because of that war, when the first dragon, defeated the Dark Lord, but as a result, the earth shattered, or the earth broke apart. Well, one of the prophecies says that the stone of Tyr will not fall until the people of the dragon come to the stone. And another says the stone will never fall till the sword that cannot be touched is wielded by the dragon's hand. The fall of the stone will be one of the major proofs that the dragon has been reborn. May the stone stand till I am dust. Well, that's the prophecy. This fortress and this sword are very integral. And Rand begins asking some follow-up questions like, well, it doesn't seem consistent here, because how can the fortress fall if it can never fall? And how can someone show up and draw this sword whatever this sword is, if no one's allowed to get to it? He has a lot of questions. Well, Tom sort of snaps at him and says, you ask an awful lot of questions, boy. A prophecy that was easily fulfilled would not be worth much as a prophecy, now would it? And he turns and says, well, it looks like we're here regardless. And Lan has led them down this back alley. He sticks his sword in through some wood that looks like pallets, and he clicks something. And sure enough, this secret door opens up. And they go into this stable. And there's this man with a pitchfork, and he's clearing some stuff. And he starts shouting, whoa, you can't come through this way. You have to go around to the front. The innkeeper comes running out and says, no, they are my friends. Welcome back, my friends, Lady Alyss and Lord and Andra. And he says, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. You must have had a long journey. Looks like you have more friends too. Well, come. Hot meals and warm beds. That's what you'll be wanting. And the best in Berlin are right here, the very best, Moiraine asks. And I trust that hot baths will be also part of this, Master Fitch, which is his name. And he says, baths? Why, just the best and the hottest in Berlin. Come, welcome to the Stag and Lion. Welcome to Berlin. That's the end of chapter 13. Choices. I think the choice there is that Egwene is wanting to become an Aes Sedai. Choices of these people that are following this person that's claiming to be the dragon. They're going down to this far off city. There's a lot of choices that each of them has to make. And as we continue with the journey, they've come to Berlin, the first city along the road, and maybe they're going to get a chance to get some questions answered, find about what's going on in the world, but surely trouble will be following them. It's behind them, with them, and ahead of them. So we'll see where the story continues from here. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you're enjoying our read through Chapter 13 of The Eye of the World, Book 1 of the Wheel of Time. If you're interested, you can like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll continue the journey and the adventure in the next video.